For the first time in 20 years, a ruling party is once again allocating its tasks in the media, began Miklos Haraszti, speaking at the annual closing conference of the Standards Media Monitor and of CivilMédia on November 15. The former media freedom representative of the OSCE added that the allocation of tasks by a single party and the deformation of the media system are having an exceptionally serious social and economic impact. So what have we got in Hungary? Propaganda in the state-funded media and apolitical infotainment, which has no information, so no pluralism, while the state media's propagandistic approach also rules out pluralism. He also spoke on how the state allocates advertising to the print media. For example, between January and March of last year, the state spent half a forint and 7 forints per issue on the 2 leading left-wing dailies, while it spent 18 and 27 forints per issue on the 2 leading right-wing dailies. With regards to the allocation of radio frequencies, Haraszti brought up the case of Club Radio, stating in particular that 7 of their frequencies outside of Budapest have already been taken away from them, and that steps are underway to take away their Budapest frequencies as well. He believes that the Media Council, by failing to implement the court rulings that have been handed down in the case so far, is disabling the only opposition radio. Meanwhile, the right-wing talk radio channels are taking over. The Lánchíd radio has basically got half the country, all of Transdanubia. Gábor Polyák, leader of the Standards Media Monitor, reported on the organization's activities for the year. They made a comprehensive analysis of the Media Council's operations, fulfilling a sort of watchdog monitoring role, developed a Freedom of the Press Index which shows how journalists, media enterprises and audiences feel, and also conducted an impact study to see how the media laws and media policies influence market processes and the behavior of journalists. According to Polyák, over the last year, media policy decisions essentially followed 2 main goals. Within the media system, the position of actors who are close to the government have gained a tremendous amount of ground in allocating new frequencies, building the new Lánchíd radio network, in subsidy policy making, not to mention that decisions regarding state advertising spending are much more difficult to monitor. Funds channeled beyond the scope of the media law's jurisdiction to the companies of friends of the government, along with the weakening of voices of critics, is what the regulation of the election campaign is all about, ensuring that election campaigns are conducted through channels that are under the influence of the ruling party. However, according to the leader of the Standards Media Monitor, the media law has been tamed somewhat by last year's Constitutional Court ruling, even though this was not sufficient to make the law either European or constitutional. When the Constitutional Court reviewed the law, it stopped at those issues that were politically sensitive. However, decisions have been delayed in 2/3 of applications for frequency allocations. Why is that? Because the Media Council is trying to completely destroy the local radio market. A company anywhere in Germany or France would and does rebel against decisions that try to control it. In Hungary, the same company just passively accepts the decision. Why? Sonia Navratil, a staff member of the Standards Media Monitor, reported on a study of the situation of the freedom of the press. It showed that neither the journalistic profession nor the population at large are satisfied with the situation of the freedom of the press. This resonates with the opinion expressed by international organizations as well. Freedom House and Reporters Without Borders have also rated the Hungarian press as partly free. How much political and economic pressure is felt by journalists in Hungary today? Well over 1/3 of journalists feel that both political and economic pressures are very strong in Hungary, and strong enough to threaten the realization of the freedom of the press. Political pressure can mainly be felt through indirect and generally economic means, such as by state advertising or the revocation of such ads. Every second journalist had heard of a colleague who had suffered a disadvantage at work because he or she had published an article or information on a political or economic topic. Powerful fears related to economic survival are continuously being confirmed, often through the political and economic pressures weighing down upon journalists. The annual activities of CivilMédia rest on 3 pillars, one of which is strategic legal defense. The aim of the organization is to support journalists and persons forming public opinion who are unable to freely voice their opinions. Through these activities, Civil media intends to shine light on systemic problems as well, in order to put pressure on the legislature and the judiciary. Civil media also took action in cases of media depiction of disadvantaged groups. It launched test proceedings before the media authority in cases where it found a broadcast to be prejudiced or stereotyped. Its aim was to direct the attention of the authority to the possibility of its taking action in such cases. These measures attempted to take the mildest approach possible so as not to infringe on the freedom of the press, but to encourage journalists to be more prudent in preparing materials for broadcast. The media authority has rejected all of the claims submitted by civil media. We launched 5 cases before the media authority. The current practice of the media authority is not suitable for taking action against prejudiced and stereotyped programming, as they interpret the concept of balanced reporting very narrowly. They did not even consider one of the criteria proposed by civil media, such as the prohibition on stereotyped and prejudiced portrayal, or relevant views such as the Ombudsman's report. In addition to all of this, civil media has also begun drafting the Media Freedom Handbook. We want to analyze lots of legislation connected to freedom of the press, lots of case law, and to provide a background of human rights standards. Persons holding public office or exercising public power must be more tolerant of criticism, added the leader of civil media, continuing on the issue of legal defense. József Karpati emphasized that whether directly or indirectly, they are chosen by the people and must represent power on some level. Therefore, their activities must be transparent and they must make themselves visible. Imposing fines through the police, riot control, adjudication through the courts, these are privileges that the average person does not have. Because of these privileges, persons in public power should also have a greater level of tolerance. However, the tangle of regulations has led to a sort of subsistence litigation, such as that launched with regards to the police. They can win substantial verdicts, often over several thousand euros, in damages against media outlets if these fail to blur the face of a police officer in even a single broadcast. Meanwhile, the courts regularly award these damages. It seems to be a great way to make money. However, the problem could be solved within the framework of Hungarian law and without infringing on democratic public opinion. The law on data privacy makes public all personal data of persons performing public tasks, and there are no provisions in the Civil Code that would rule out its applicability. Anyone who regularly voices his or her opinion in public and wants to have an impact on public opinion should be more tolerant of criticism and should not take action in criminal or civil law. It has to be clearly stated at the statutory level what you are allowed to broadcast, which data the accused can publish. And finally, about our plans, the Standards Media Monitor is launching a process to rethink media legislation with the involvement of experts and stakeholders from the public, which will result in drawing up specific recommendations. Civil media is continuing its legal defense activities in the area of the freedom of the press and freedom of expression. It contributes to and supports the media self-regulation process and is currently drafting a Freedom of the Press handbook which will analyze recent cases related to the freedom of the press and provide guidelines for practitioners.